Hello everyone. As you can tell from the image right there, this isn't going to be a normal video. My friend Cecil over at the horror show has asked myself and a couple of other people where we would rank the franchises as a whole in this list here. You can see a few of the franchises there, which I will go through. I'm not ranking the movies themselves, I'm ranking the franchise as a whole, and that's what he's done in his video as well. I'll leave a link down below to his channel and the video that he had the idea on. So he sent this over to me. It's a Photoshop template of what we'll look at. I will zoom this out a little bit for you as well when I'm ready, so you can see my face at the moment. But yeah, so this is what the list would look like. I will take these two guys out the way, Cecil and his friend Fuego. I'll take them away and then I'll start ranking them. Now, I haven't seen all these movies in a long time. You know, there's some that I haven't seen for a long time, so I'll rank them as best as I can as I remembered them when I last saw them. And there is two franchises in this list that I haven't seen any movie of, and I will mention them in a minute, so I won't include those movies, but the rest of them I will include because I've seen them all, whether it be recent or a long time ago. Now, he has put a system up: S, A, B, C, D and F. So F is basically a fail. They're terrible franchises overall. A, B, C and D, that's where it gets interesting because some could be A, some B, some C, some D. And then S is, we don't quite know what that is, but that's the best of the bunch. Better than an A. Superior, let's call it superior. So it'll be interesting to see if I put any in this list. I'll try not to take too long doing this, guys, but it is quite interesting. I thought I would do it. I said to Cecil I would do it myself personally, but I think the reason I'm doing this video is because I think it's good for you all to see it, because it is a good thing to do. I haven't ranked all my franchises before, so it will be good to do this. This may change in the future, but at this moment in time, this is how I'm going to rank them. I've not thought about it yet, so as you can see, I will be doing this not live, but live for myself, for you guys to see how I'm doing my thought process, and we'll go ahead and do this. So what I'll do, you're not going to see my face for quite a while, but I will drag this so it is a bit bigger. Maybe you'll still see a bit of me, but that's okay. So yeah, we'll do it about there. So first things first. Oops. First things first, let's get rid of Cecil and Fuego. Don't want to see those guys. And we'll also remove the title. So that leaves all the movies. Wait a minute, we've got the horror show here. Let's get rid of that as well. Don't need that. Now, you can see the list of the movies there at the right hand side. I will be removing two of these because I haven't seen any of them. Whether that be I didn't like the look of them or just not got around to do it, I don't know. But the first one is Puppet Master. Remove that. I've never seen a Puppet Master movie in my life. I don't plan on seeing them either because they do look bad. So I don't know why. The other franchise I've never seen any of is Phantasm or Phantasm, whatever you want to call it. Remove that. For the exact same reason as Puppet Master, it never interested me, and I just never got around to watching any of the movies. So the rest of them, I have seen them all. So I will rank these from memory. Some I've seen recently, some I've not seen for a long time. But from memory, I'll rank them as best as I can. So before I start ranking them, let me just zoom that out a bit. So let's get ranking. Let's put this back up. Okay. Now I might chop and change from now and again, but let's try our best. I'll rank the big franchises last, so there's something exciting to look at. So let's start with Tremors. Tremors is okay. The movies that I've seen, I don't even think I've seen them all because I think there's 6 or 7 of them now. Seen all the older ones. I've not seen the recent one or two, but from what I remember, they were okay. I think what makes this a watchable franchise is the first movie, but one movie doesn't make a franchise, unfortunately. So let's move this across. I don't think it's a C, unfortunately, guys. I think I'm going to put it a D. I don't think it's a complete failure, so I'm not going to put it an F. But it's certainly not a memorable franchise in the least. So
I think a D was probably what is best suited. I don't think that's going to change, to be honest. Let's do, what's next? We'll do the Leprechaun franchise. Leprechaun franchise, is it fun? No. Is it memorable? It's memorable in the wrong way. And Leprechaun, I think Leprechaun in Space, I think that was part 4. That's one of the worst films I've ever seen. I think do you know what? There's nothing redeeming about this franchise. Let's give it an F. Straight off the bat, guys. 2 in, and we've already got ourselves an F. I call myself a horror fan. Hopefully you understand, guys, why I'm putting this as an F. It's just awful. Even the best movie in the franchise, part 1, is still a bad movie. And if the best movie in a franchise is still considered bad, then it's got to be an F, hasn't it? Yeah, it's an F. Right, next up, let's do the Howling franchise. I don't want to start from worst to best, so let's do the Howling franchise. When I first seen the Howling, that was a very scary experience for me. Werewolves are one of my most feared monsters in the movie business, and to this day it still scares me. An American Werewolf in London is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. So I would consider The Howling a pretty scary movie as well. But where does that leave the sequels? Well, to be honest, guys, I don't hate part 2. A lot of people hate part 2. The sequels after that were pretty bad. However, I don't know if you guys remember this, but The Howling 5, is it called Rebirth? The Howling 5 was set in a castle. And don't ask me why, but that was one of my favourite horror movies for a long time as a kid. I watched horror movies as a kid all the time, so it has got some decent entries in my opinion, but it is still a bad franchise overall. I don't think it's as bad as Tremors though, but I don't think it's a great franchise. I'm swaying between a C and a D. I think purely because of part 1 and because of the nostalgic factor for part 5 randomly, I'm going to put this a C. It's a borderline C though. It's possibly an amazing D, but a terrible C. But we'll put it as a C because we're not going anywhere fast, to be honest. So yeah, that's the first 3 franchises done so far. Let me just zoom out a bit so you can remember what I look like. So yeah, 3 franchises done so far. There's quite a few to go through. I think Cecil said to me there was about 160 franchises that he counted. Obviously he can't do that in one video, but this is the main ones that he chose. So let's get back into it. So let's zoom back in again. And let's go into the next one. So where will I go next? Let's do let's do the Critters franchise. I haven't seen the latest Critters movie, and I haven't seen that little mini TV series. We won't count any TV series in this. I know that you can see Screams there. I'm not going to include the Scream TV show, so it's just movies only. So Critters, the same goes for Critters. So Critters, the nostalgic factor gets to me with the Critters movies. Even the worst of Critters movies, the nostalgia oozes through me. So I think with Critters, it is hard because they are cheesy films, but memorable cheese, if that makes sense. And I do like the first 2 Critters movies. I think the first 2 Critters movies were excellent films. Maybe poorly made. People consider them poorly made movies these days, but I still consider them classics. But again, it's a kind of Howling situation. It's between a B and a C. I'm going to give it a C. They're maybe a C++, just scraping underneath the B. I don't think they're good enough to be considered B quality, but they're nowhere near the bottom. So yeah, let's put Critters as a C. Let me try and hurry this up a bit as well. Let's do a bigger one. Let's do the Saw franchise. I'm going to take off auto select because that's what's causing this problem. So yeah, Saw franchise. If you can hear an aeroplane going above, it's because I'm in my loft. When I do my video editing, I edit those parts out, but because I'm doing this semi-live, we're going to get all the aeroplane goodness in these videos. So, yeah, so, now the Saw franchise, I didn't like going towards the end. I'm not a fan of the torture porn horror movies, but Saw did something that the other torture porn movies didn't, and it gave us a bit of a story. It gave us a likeable bad guy in Jigsaw, and it gave us some good thrills along the way. So I think it's the best of the torture porn movies. Saw was a fantastic horror movie. Saw 2 was a really good sequel. I'm not going to go through them all here, but 1, 2 and 3 were really good quality. After part 3, the quality dipped dramatically. Saw 3D, I remember that being an okay movie, and we've got to remember that's like the 7th movie in the franchise. And then we had Jigsaw, who revitalised apparently the franchise, but it didn't really. But we had a few bad apples along the way, but the bad apples weren't bad movies, and I think the good movies were great. Therefore, we've got our first B in this listing, guys. So let's just make that a little bit bigger so you can see it. So we've got ourselves our first B here. So yes, it turns out I do like horror movies, guys. Saw is a solid B. Will we move on to Hellraiser? Let's do it. Let's get a bit of controversy going on. Hellraiser. Hellraiser movies for me are nothing short of diabolical. And you're probably thinking, what? Yep. The best Hellraiser movie in this franchise is obviously part 1. And that's not even watchable for me. I don't know what the hype is behind this franchise, but I think it's a terrible franchise. One of the worst films I've ever seen in recent memory is that latest Hellraiser movie. I can't even remember what it's called. Is it Hellraiser Revelations or something? I don't know. But it was bad. So let's not beat around the bush, guys, and give this a solid F. I think it's worse than the Leprechaun franchise, and that's saying something. It's an opinion, remember, so don't shout at me for that, guys. It's just not my cup of tea. I don't like any of the Hellraiser movies, and that's about it. So, yeah, it's an F for me. Let's move on to the Wrong Turn franchise. Now, Wrong Turn movies, a bit like most horror franchises, are they start strong and they finish weak until they get to a point where nobody even realises there's more sequels coming out. So yeah, Wrong Turn's on that kind of level. Now, it does have bad movies in it, just like a lot of franchises, but it does have good movies in it as well. I actually kind of liked Wrong Turn 2. It wasn't a bad film. I think it was Henry Rollins that was in that one. And the stories were good, but I think they were cheaply made, and I think that was the downturn and the downfall of the Wrong Turn films. I think it started off with a really classic looking movie, and the reason why I loved the original Wrong Turn is because it took inspiration from one of my favourite horror movies of all time, Just Before Dawn, that came out in 1981. When I watched Wrong Turn, I thought, wow, this is just like a remake of Just Before Dawn, and you know, it done a good job, it done a stellar job. The cast was great, and the bad guys were, I wouldn't say original because we've seen it all before, but the casting of the bad guys was really good. One of the creepiest guys in it was a skinny guy who was also an urban legend. He's a good actor, a good bad guy at least. But again, I'm torn because I don't think it deserves to be a D franchise because the first movie was so strong, but it has got a few howlers in it as well. I'm going to go with a C, guys. Let's do it. It's a C franchise for me. It's not as bad as the Tremors franchise. I think it is on par with the Howling and Critters. So let's give it a C. It's not a solid C. It's maybe a below par C, but a C nonetheless. Let's move on to... what will we do next? Let's do the Resident Evil franchise. I was very disappointed in the Resident Evil franchise, and that's simply because I loved the game as a kid. I loved the PlayStation game, and then when I watched the first movie, I thought this is nothing like the game, And then I think the movies got more ridiculous again as time went past. But for some reason, excuse me, some of them were guilty pleasures. I liked the one with Wentworth Miller. I think that was a 3D one. Thing is though, I've not seen any of these movies for a long time, and I think I've only seen some of them once. So I'm not the best judge of the Resident Evil movies unless I see them all again. But the best movie in the franchise was under par for me, and the rest of them were semi-ridiculous. So again, I think I'm going to have to give this one a D. I'm not loving any of these franchises, guys. There's some franchises that are not even in this list that I would like to talk about, like the House franchise, for example. That's a great franchise for me. Let me just zoom out a bit so you can see my face again. So yeah, we're halfway there, guys. We've got most of the bad franchises out of the way. There's still a few iffy ones in there, but we'll get there. But yeah, so far so bad, or so far so good, who knows. So let me zoom back out again. I don't want this video to be too long, so let's hurry up a bit. Let's move on to, let's do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. It's not the biggest franchise, but it is a decent sized one. Now, here we go. So let's put it here just now. I'll quickly run through them. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a classic and it's a great movie. Part 2, not so much. I wasn't a fan of Part 2 at all. It is a classic in its own right because of the way it went, but I don't like it. Part 3 went back to the horror roots, and I really enjoyed that one, and I liked the casting in that one with Viggo Mortensen. So I think that was better than Part 2. Part 4 is what a lot of people consider a really, really bad movie, and it is a bad movie, but for some stupid reason I enjoy it. The New Generation with Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey. Don't ask me why, but I kind of enjoyed that film. After that, with the remakes, I think the remake from 2003 is possibly the best horror remake ever made. Post Millennium. I'm not talking about The Fly. I'm not talking about The Thing or anything like that. I'm talking after 2000. I think the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake was stellar. A fantastic horror movie. I also love the 2006 prequel, The Beginning. One of my favourite movies of that era in 2006. After that though, that's where things don't go too well with it. With 3D coming out, the Texas Chainsaw 3D. Hated that franchise. Hated that movie. And then Leatherface, the latest one in the franchise, was awful as well. But putting those two movies aside, the rest of the movies were, some of them were okay, but a lot of them were really good. I think I'm going to put this one a B. Sorry, I've just rambled on there. It's going to be a B, guys, because... Is it a B? Could it be an A? Nah, it's a strong B. Excuse me. A. B. Do you know what, guys? I'm sorry, but I'm making this an A. It's an A! Simply because of the original is a classic. The remake is one of the best remakes of all time. And the prequel to the remake was great as well. And a few good movies in between. I'm making it an A, guys. Shout at me all you want, but it's better than the Saw franchise. Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise is an A. Okay. Let's go on to Jaws. Now, I'm one of these guys who didn't love Jaws. And I didn't love what came after it either, to be honest. Let's make this a quick one. We're making it a C. And if it wasn't for the original Jaws, it would have been an F. But this, because of the original Jaws, it brought it up 2 spaces. It's in the C category. Just in the C category. When we move on to the Child's Play franchise, the only reason I'm saying that is because it's getting very close to this part here. So, Chucky franchise. I've actually recently ranked the Chucky franchise. Child's Play 1, Child's Play 2 were great. But they are the only great movies in the franchise. The remake was pretty good. Bride of Chucky was silly but okay. Curse of Chucky was okay. Cult Part 3 and Seed of Chucky weren't great movies at all. But it's a strong franchise, believe it or not, and the nostalgic factor gets to me as well. I'm going to make it a B. Now it's just scraping the B and no more, but it's worthy of a B, so we're making it a B. So we'll put it there. Let's go next to... what we do next? Amityville. Amityville franchise. I love a good ghost story, and the Amityville Horror was a good ghost story. I actually prefer the remake over the original. The remake was really good. Ryan Reynolds was really good. Melissa George was really good. Jimmy Bennett in the movie was really good. Chloe Grace Moretz again was really good. Strong cast, guys, for that one. All the other movies in the franchise, there was only, part 2 was almost on par with the original. I liked Burt Young in that one. The rest of them though weren't great. I do like the one with the lamp, Evil Escapes Part 4. That was okay. But again, there's some howlers in that franchise, and it suffered just like Wrong Turn did with all the straight to DVD, straight to VHS sequels in the franchise. It's going to be a C. Let's make it a C. It's not awful, but it's not great. So it's in the C category. I've got quite a few in the C category now. So let's move on to Paranormal Activity. Now, when Paranormal Activity first came out, you had to demand it in your cinema, in your local theatre. I'm from Glasgow, Scotland, so I had to demand it for Glasgow. And because I did, and it was successfully put into Glasgow, my name was put at the end of the original Paranormal Activity. So I've got that connection to that movie, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. One of the best found footage movies I've seen. But Part 2 was good, not as good as Part 1, but I think Part 3, the prequel, was better than Part 1. A lot more scares in it, and genuine scares as well. And the fact it was set in the 80s made it even better. I think it was set in 1988. And I liked it. Part 4 was when it started to get silly. I'm not including the marked ones. Well, let's include it because it is a paranormal activity movie. And then the Ghost Dimension wasn't great. But with the first 3 movies being so strong for me, I'm making it a B. You're probably thinking, you're making Jaws a C, Critters a C, The Howling a C, but you're making Paranormal Activity a B. I don't hate found footage movies, guys. I know some people do. I don't. I enjoy them. Paranormal Activity is one of the better found footage movies that I've seen, so it's a B for me, and a good B at that. So we've got 5 left. Let me just zoom out a bit so again you can see my lovely face. So yeah, we'll get 5 left, guys. I don't even know how long this video... 23 minutes this video's been on for. Let's try and wrap it up within 30 minutes or so. So let's zoom back in again and get to the nitty gritty. What will we do next? You know I'm going to do this one next. Final Destination. Final Destination really only has one movie in the franchise that wasn't great. It was good, but it wasn't great, and that was Final Destination 3D Part 4. It wasn't great, but 1, 2 and 3 were great. I love those movies, and again they've got a kind of nostalgic factor to them even though they're not too old. Part 4 again wasn't great, but Part 5, that twist ending I didn't see coming, and that was almost worth the price of admission for that film alone. Quite cheesy, but still watchable and a good entry to the franchise. And again, Part 1, 2 and 3 were great. So I think if you've got 5 movies in a franchise with 3 of them being great, 1 of them being good, and the other one being okay, you've got a good franchise there, guys. So without further ado, let's make it a B. Yeah, definitely a B. Excuse me, sorry. So that leaves us with the top 4 franchises, I would say. Even though Scream only has 4 movies in it, people would consider it a top franchise, horror franchise. So let's go into Scream next. I didn't hate, but I didn't love Scream 3, but I thought it was good. Again, we're only judging 4 movies here, and I think that Scream 1 is one of my favourite horror movies of all time. Scream 4 was pretty good considering the length of time it took to make it. And Scream 2, again, it's becoming one of these cult movies that people do enjoy. Part 3, not so much. There was a few silly moments in Part 3. But at the end of the day, it is a Scream franchise, and if there was another Scream movie coming out in the future, everyone would welcome it because it's so loved by most people, especially the first movie. Therefore, it's an A. Boom. Okay, we're on to the last 3. This is what most people consider the big 3 in the horror franchises. So that's why I left those to last. So, let's do Friday the 13th first. Friday the 13th. Where is it? No. Jason. That's it. Friday the 13th. Where does this rank? Now, there's a few movies in this franchise that were quite rotten, I would say. Rank rotten. How do I rank this one? Because I've mentioned this quite a few times in my movie reviews that Halloween has superior movies in it, but Friday the 13th has a more fun factor to them. If somebody said to me, let's binge watch a franchise, let's binge watch either Halloween franchise or the Friday the 13th franchise, I would sway towards the Friday the 13th franchise because it's more fun to watch. Oh, this is a tough one, guys. I'm going to make it an A. Yeah, we'll make it an A. The remake, again, one of the best remakes I've seen. The original is quite dated, but the sequels to the original in this were pretty good, and they remained solid throughout. There was a few ups and downs throughout the Friday the 13th franchise. Most notably Part 5 that people hate, but I love Part 5. But the ones that I don't like are Jason X and the final chapter. But is it a B though? We're going to make it an A. It scrapes an A. How's that sound? For all you Friday fans, hopefully you'll enjoy that. Let's move on to Halloween. Halloween franchise. For those of you who have been a subscriber to my channel for a long time, you know that Halloween is one of my favourite movies of all time. The original is my favourite horror movie of all time. And there's just something about this franchise, good or bad, that takes me back to it. Anytime I watch any of the Halloween movies, I have good feelings towards all of them. Even Part 5. I don't like Resurrection. I don't like the Rob Zombie movies. In fact, the remake was okay. It's watchable, but the Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 was disastrous. But there's only been 2 disastrous movies in the franchise. Halloween 5 and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. The rest of them were decent. Even The Curse of Michael Myers was decent. It's a tough one, guys. Because it's definitely an A. I'll give you that. But is it good enough to be an S? To be honest, it's my favourite horror franchise. And if I have to give one of them an S, it's obviously going to be Halloween. My boy Michael. Boy! Yep, we're doing it. Halloween is an S. That's superior. Let's say the S stands for superior. That's what that is. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now, last but not least is Freddy Krueger, A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. It is a good franchise. Not my favourite. Part 1, Part 2 and Part 3 were great. I loved all 3 of those. A lot of people hate Part 2 for some reason. I don't know why, but I really love it. One of my favourites in the franchise. However, Parts 4, 5 and 6 I don't consider good movies. They're not the worst movies ever. Apart from Freddy's Dead, Part 6, that's terrible. But 4 and 5 were below par. Excuse me. I've been talking for ages. But yeah. Part 7 though, Wes Craven's New Nightmare was great. And then the remake, I didn't feel anything for the remake. Oh, it's a tough one. I think it could be a strong B or a weak A. But putting in an A, you know what? I'm going to make it an A. I'm looking at my A there, and this just looks like a typical A and S. The top 5 is what most people would consider the top 5, but I genuinely don't want to make it a B just to be different. If I'm the same as a lot of people, I'm the same as a lot of people. There's a reasons for that, because we all generally have the same thoughts. So yeah, we're going to make it an A. That's it. So that is the list, guys. So have a good look at it before I zoom out a bit. Here we go. And that's it. Actually, it was a lot harder to do this than I thought it would be. When Cecil and Fuego were doing this, I thought that's easy to do. I can do that, no bother. But it is hard, because your opinion changes over time. Especially, look at the Amityville franchise, for example. There's a lot of movies in that franchise, whereas the Scream franchise is only 4. So it's a lot less likely for the Scream franchise to become boring and mess up. But the Amityville franchise has that disadvantage because it's got so many movies in it. So, but again, that's their own fault for making too many movies. Scream has only made 4, and that's good for them. So yeah, that is my final list just now. Like I said, or like Cecil said, there's about 160 franchises out there that we could rank, and that's just a bunch of them there. So, like I said, Phantasm and Puppet Master I couldn't rank at all because I haven't seen any of those movies. That's why I've taken them out. So yeah, that's mine just now. Have a good look at it, guys. And Cecil, if you're watching, leave a comment down below and let me know what you think of my ranking. It is a bit different from yours, and I imagine it is going to be different from quite a few people. But yeah, that's my ranking. Like I mentioned, guys, I'm going to leave a link to Cecil's YouTube channel below if you haven't checked him out. He's got like almost 30,000 subscribers now, so you should know him by now if you know me. But I'll leave a link down below to his channel anyway, and you'll see that video on his channel. So check that out and look at his listing, maybe compare it with mine as well. That might be fun. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot for watching again. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.